Sup guys, Zanderson977 here today to do Tokyo Ghoul episode 5 review. Now in this episode of Tokyo Ghoul a lot of shit went down, right? Since the beginning of this series I've always noticed that ghouls have this kind of ability, this kind of power that comes out from their backs, and this power, it especially in this episode, it differs for each individual depending on the type of ghoul that shows its power. Is always different. In the case of Rize and for Kaneki's power is this tentacle looking kind of sharp pointed kind of thing, and in the case of Nishio it was this kind of blue looking tentacle. That goes to show you that these powers, and as they've been explained in this episode of Tokyo Ghoul, is actually called Kagune, and these Kagune, they are all different, and we even get insight into what makes a ghoul strong and how their nutrition is important in terms of their strength. And in a real ghoul fight, it's really a battle of Kagunes. You need to have your Kagune out for you to really be able to fight those other higher tier or top class fights with ghouls of same strength, etc. So I'm going to start off with a summary first. Now in this week's episode, first initially starts out with Kaneki-kun having this dream of Tsukiyama biting down on him, ready to eat him, and then he wakes up. It's a nightmare. He wakes up and he's doing his job, and the same old guy, I forgot his name, he's done his duties, and the guy says, well, it's time up, so they'll be rotating him and someone else will be coming in. And he asks about Touka because he hasn't seen her today at least, and he gets told that Touka is sick. So he goes up to Touka's room, and upon going up there we see Hinami's mother. She was just coming through the door talking to Touka, and he Kaneki wasn't sure or didn't know of the fact that she was there, so he was startled by all of that. But eventually he got in. He was initially afraid of Touka-chan as always, but he began settling down, and he found out that Touka is sick because of all the human food that she ate, which is another important factor that's pointed out in this week's anime episode. It seems as if, because in last week's anime episode I didn't necessarily mention this, but there was a point where Touka, she had eaten too much human food and she had to get it out of her. She was trying her best to regurgitate or vomit out as much of it as she could, but it wasn't working. And because the food that she ate wasn't regurgitated, or she didn't vomit it out in the first place, it made her sick. And if a ghoul is sick, it affects their health. So eating human food to them makes them totally sick. That's why they have such a deep aversion to human food. Now it's revealed that she's sick. Her friend came over and she realizes that another guy is in the room with Touka, who is Kaneki, and she's probably getting impression that this guy's her boyfriend or whatever. So she was surprised and she got pissed and gave her the food that she made for Touka and then walked off. And then Touka was asking her to come back, etc. But after that point, it got to a point where Kaneki actually saw Nishio getting beaten up by guys. Now I swear that this Nishio dude was dead, but apparently he didn't die. That goes to show you just how resilient and tough these wolves actually are. Upon taking really fatal blows, it seems that even upon taking those type of blows, they will survive and they won't necessarily die as easily as humans do. Now he sees Nishio and these guys are beating Nishio up. He was coming back from training from Yomo, that dude that barely talks, that white hair ghoul dude that barely talks. And upon this guy coming in to attack him, Kaneki remarks of how these guys, they move a lot slower than Yomo, so he's able to bypass their movements pretty easily, and he apparently saved Nishio and brought him home back to that girl Kimi. Now, upon bringing him home to his girlfriend Kimi, she was exclaiming how Nishio in his current state he appears to be weak and he needs to eat human flesh, but he wasn't apparently getting human flesh for a while, and then we find out that that girlfriend that he's with Kimi, she's actually a human, and she's asking Kaneki what can be done. Kaneki says he was trying to help her, and upon she walking away, we see her get kidnapped by Tsukiyama, the hentai dude. Now this guy Tsukiyama, he kidnaps her and he intends for there to be a feast where Kaneki, he wants to eat Kaneki while Kaneki is eating this girl, right? Weird just in his description. And earlier in this week's episode, we see him smelling Kaneki's handkerchief with the blood, and he's just all over it, and he's just crazy, going crazy over a handkerchief that he's smelling in his face. Man, this dude coming like he had multiple orgasms from smelling this handkerchief. Just just funny and weird, but reaches a point where he apparently kidnaps Kimi and he intends for, well, he did it on purpose to lure out Kaneki because he was stalking Kaneki. He knows that Kaneki will want to help this girl, so he uses it to as a means to kind of bribe Kaneki. And it just so happens that Nishio came to Kaneki's house realizing that Kimi, his girlfriend, is no longer there, and then when push comes to shove, he realizes that Tsukiyama is after his girlfriend because of her connection with Kaneki. He saw them walking earlier and he wants to use her as a hostage. So Kaneki and Nishio went into this cathedral looking place, and upon going in there, we see Nishio explain to them that he wants to eat on Kaneki, and but Kaneki, he wants to save the human innocent girl Kimi, and one thing leads to the next. Nishio tries attacking him, he easily disposes of Nishio. Kaneki tries attacking him, we see that he's much stronger than Kaneki, he easily disposes of Kaneki as well, but not in a way to actually hurt him. And then at the last minute we see Touka come in there. She comes in, causes a scar on his face, right? But as was stated by him, within 10 seconds that scar heals up. So this is another ability displayed by ghouls. Ghouls are able to heal themselves from certain attacks. I'm guessing if the attack itself isn't too severe, they will automatically heal. But as in the case of Nishio in his flashback that I will get to later on, in the case of Nishio, certain attacks, right, certain fatal injuries that ghouls get, it cannot be healed no other way apart from eating human flesh. So they have healing abilities, and it works all the time, but the more fatal the injury, the more they will need to feed on flesh for them to heal that injury. And he actually, when Touka and Kaneki try to group up on him and try to attack him simultaneously, he actually easily disposes of Touka, throws her one side, and then broke Kaneki's arm, so that Kaneki will be immobilized. And upon doing that, we see him actually use his Kagune against Touka. Right, when Touka was beginning to charge at him after that attack, he used his Kagune and struck her right through her stomach. So she was there, and then he begins to explain that ghouls who don't eat properly, who don't have a proper nutrition, they can't fight to their fullest. And he gives the analogy of a ghoul's Kagune being the engine or driving force, and the fuel or gasoline being humans for that Kagune. So the nutrition for ghouls is very important, as it is for human beings, and their nutrition revolves around getting enough blood or human flesh so that they can be in their tip-top strength shape. But because Touka was sick from eating her friend's food, she wasn't at her full strength, and something even interesting, Tsukiyama exclaims of how when he first saw Touka when he was 18 and she was 14, so he's 4 years older than her. When that time comes, he explains that she was stronger than how she is at least currently because she was sick, and how she had cold dark eyes. And it's even got explained by Touka that out of him and Tsukiyama, they were actually equal strength. So Touka and Tsukiyama were actually equal strength in the past, which is pretty impressive for Touka-chan. She's a strong ghoul herself, which was actually hinted before this. And Nisha's doing his best. We see even his flashback of him having a sister, and this sister meeting this dude who is a human, and then push came to shove, it got revealed that she's a ghoul, and he reported her, and because of that his sister ended up dying. The same thing happened to him, except in his case when he was injured by Kaneki, his girlfriend gave him a piece of her flesh so that he could revive himself, so that he wouldn't die. And it turned out actually better for him in his case than for his sister's case. So that's another interesting turn of events. We get more backstory into Nisha, and we see his past, that it was just him and his sister in the beginning, and his sister always looked after him and all of that. So we see that yes, he was we see his past, his history of sorts. So he absolutely trying his best to prevent Tsukiyama from eating his girlfriend Kimura, from harming her. But as we see, it doesn't matter what he tries, Tsukiyama always shuts him down, always, because we see Tsukiyama even use his own Kagune, which looks like this spear thing that warps around his arm, comes out from his upper back, warps around his arm. And because he tasted Kaneki's flesh, he said it's even better than he imagined, and he got riled up, and he's determined to eat Kaneki. He's determined to let Kaneki feast on Kimi and eat him in the process. And then Kaneki suddenly got the idea upon Tsukiyama's explanation that he wants to let Touka eat him, at least bite or try to feed off him in the first place. And upon him doing that, so that Touka would get the sustenance she needs to fight her full strength, we see Tsukiyama notices that Touka is trying to eat Kaneki, and he gets pissed, right? He gets pissed and he attacks instantly, but Touka's Kagune just blocks off that attack easily, and her Kagune looks like, as I've said before, like it's gaseous looking thing. So I'm interested to see how their fight turn off, if they actually intend to show it. But Touka is now at full power, so they are going to face off against Kaneki in the next week's episode, and I like to see where that goes. But overall, I thought it was an awesome episode of Tokyo Ghoul. There was a lot of exposition in this episode, a lot of abilities about ghouls that were revealed, about their nutrition, about their Kagune, about and about Nishio's past. This episode had a lot of exposition, and we even find out that if ghouls eat too much human food, it actually made them sick and actually prevent them from fighting at full strength. So this episode of Tokyo Ghoul, in my opinion, was an excellent episode. So that's it. That's my review. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.